Hello and welcome to my second video on our holiday in Italy. If you're a regular viewer, you'll know that I normally talk about knitting and crochet and related things here on my YouTube channel, but I'm doing a couple of videos about our recent holiday in Italy. I shared one last Sunday, and I'm trying to experiment over the summer with doing some different types of videos on Sunday evenings. So talking about things that don't really fit the topic of my YouTube channel. Normally I post about knitting and crochet, and I do tutorials, podcasts, chat about different related topics, and I post a video on Tuesday and Friday. But I thought over the summer I would experiment with doing something a little bit different on Sundays. Bit of travel, packing, days out in Devon and Cornwall where I live, my handbag obsession, things like that. So, or just anything else I fancy talking about. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. So today I'm going to talk about Italy. We went to Italy for 2 weeks, first 2 weeks in May for my husband's 60th birthday. We stayed near Naples in the Pompeii area. I put out a video last week where I talked about Pompeii, Naples and Herculaneum. So if you haven't watched that, do go and watch it. I'll make sure I link it below. We stayed in a town called Scafati, which is next to Pompeii. And it's the whole Naples area is just a huge metropolitan urban area, really. From Naples to where we stayed, you couldn't really tell when you went from one town to the next because it was just huge built up area. Today I'm going to talk specifically about Sorrento, Amalfi, and the Amalfi coast. So I hadn't decided before we left whether we would definitely go to Sorrento and the Amalfi coast because it looked close enough that we could go there on the day trip, and we had hired a car. But our whole plan was to do Naples and Pompeii especially, and Herculaneum. That was kind of our main plan. One of the first days we were there, we went down to a nearby town called Castellammare di Stabia, which was the nearest seaside town to where we stayed. We planned to go to the beach, but we got there and it was a bit overcast and not that warm. So we had a walk around and explored the town, just looked around. And then I said, what about if we go to Sorrento? So I looked up in Google Maps and worked out how long it would take us to drive to Sorrento. So we decided to go to Sorrento, and it was a bit of an impulse. We hadn't planned to go that day. We had our beach stuff in the car, but it wasn't sunny enough and warm enough to go on the beach. So we headed off to Sorrento. The drive from Castellammare di Stabia is quite hilly. First, to start with, there's a couple of tunnels, and then it's quite hilly. We stopped at this viewpoint overlooking, I think it's a town called Meta, but I can't remember now. There's a little bit in the video that I'm going to play over this. Beautiful views. We drove to Sorrento. I didn't really know much about Sorrento. A few people had told me it was worth going and it was a pretty town. So I didn't know much about it. I hadn't really planned much or anything to do. When we got into Sorrento, we got to where the main bus station is, and there was a car park there. So we parked there, underground car parks. We parked there and then we walked a few minutes into town. I don't remember how much it was, like 10-15 minutes maybe. And we went straight to a park on the seafront, which, if I can find the name of it, I'll pop it on the screen. But because when I'd read up about Sorrento, that it had beautiful views. So we had a look around there. You can see down to these beach clubs. So I don't know if Sorrento actually have any beaches. It's kind of built on the cliffs. And where we were, you could look down and there were steps down, or you could get a lift down. The lift you had to pay for. Basically, these beach clubs, most of them you had to pay for. There was like a public area, I think. There wasn't a lot of people there when we were there. The private beach clubs you pay, and then I assume you get a sunbed and umbrella, or parasol rather, to use while you're there. There was I'm assuming it was a free area, because there was an area, sort of like a wooden area, where there was just nothing, and there was a few people lying there on their towels sunbathing and stuff. It wasn't that busy when we were there because obviously it was early May, not really beach season yet, and it wasn't that warm. I don't know how expensive these beach clubs are, and I don't know whether there's any other beaches in Sorrento where you just go down to the beach and it's just a sandy beach like normal. I don't know, because we didn't really go there for the beach. So we had a look at the view, took some video, took some photos. There's some quite nice looking hotels there. then we walked through the town, loads of narrow streets, loads of shops. We looked into some of the shops. We found this little tiny little hole in the wall type place selling pizza slices. So we got a pizza slice each side, and then we walked around a bit more, and then we went and got some ice cream, very nice ice cream. And then we wandered back towards the car. We thought we knew where we were going. We walked for quite a bit, and then I was like saying to Simon, I don't remember going past here on the way in. So we sat down, and Simon actually walked on to see whether, because by this point I was in quite a lot of pain. So I didn't really want to go any further unless I knew we were going in the right direction. And I said to Simon, I don't recognize this area. I don't think this is the way we came in. So Simon carried on walking to see whether we were in the right place or not. I found this little pool water feature thing, and there were some benches around it. So I sat down there and I started looking on Google Maps to see if I could find the bus station, and which I eventually did. And I realized that we'd actually gone too far out, but that we were a street above where the bus station was. So we were going in the right direction. We should have been parallel street below where we were. So I really like Sorrento. I wanted to go back to Sorrento again and spend some more time there, especially look around the shops and stuff and explore all these narrow streets and everything. My family will know I love narrow old streets. Give me an old town with narrow streets and I will spend hours there. It was very busy when we were there, even though it wasn't in high season. Loads of souvenir stuff with lemons on the Sorrento area and Amalfi coast. A big thing. If you've been there, you probably know there's lemons on everything. Clothes with lemons, everything, and limoncello. Souvenir bottles of limoncello sold everywhere. Lemons everywhere. So we had a look around. Really enjoyed Sorrento. I wanted to go back. And on the final day, we were on the beach, and it actually started raining after about an hour and a half. And I said to someone, then, should we go to Sorrento? But he wasn't very keen. So we tried to find somewhere that we could have lunch. But it turned out it was Mother's Day, and most of the restaurants near the beach were set up for that. And they did not look very keen on us coming in our shorts and T-shirts and looking a bit sandy and wet. So we ended up going back to the flat and just chilling after the afternoon. I think we should have gone to Sorrento that day and spent the day in Sorrento, but because it was Mother's Day, it might have been really, really packed. I don't know. Another place I wasn't sure that I wanted to go or not was Amalfi, the Amalfi coast. I looked up, I'd read up quite a lot about it, I watched some YouTube videos about it, and we did have a hire car, but I kept seeing people warning you against driving to Amalfi or on the Amalfi coast because it's very hilly, the roads are very narrow and windy, and by this point we'd seen how crazy the southern Italians drive. I mean, the driving where we were staying was just, I've never seen anything like it. Completely crazy. I talked more about that, I think, last week. Completely crazy. So I was a bit worried about driving there. I read stuff about the fact that there's loads of tourist buses. Obviously, we went in season, but I thought, and I'd also read that the best way to see the Amalfi Coast is to go by boat. So we decided to go by boat. I don't necessarily love boats. I get really easily seasick. But we had a look, and we decided to drive down to Salerno. I actually made a mistake. Simon hadn't looked into the Amalfi Coast at all, so basically it was my decision to make. So I wasn't sure to go to Amalfi or Positano. They both looked beautiful online. I wasn't sure which one to go to. I must admit, I think I got confused between Salerno and Sorrento. I thought when we got on the boat to Salerno, the Amalfi Coast was south of Salerno. It's not, it's north. And I thought I knew that Amalfi was further south on the Amalfi Coast than Positano was. I thought by going to Amalfi, we'd be going past Positano. And then when I actually looked at Google Maps when we were on the boat, I realized that we were going north and that the Amalfi Coast is between Salerno and Sorrento. And so you get to Amalfi first, the town of Amalfi, and then you go on to Positano. Anyway, we decided to go to Amalfi, so I thought, well, we'll stick with that. The boat for Positano was also really, really packed, whereas the boat for Amalfi wasn't as busy. We managed to sit upstairs on the kind of viewing deck of the boat, and we managed to sit on the right-hand side. So if you're going from Salerno to along the Amalfi Coast, you want to sit on the right-hand side of the boat so you can see the views of the coast as you go past. And we managed to do that, and I'm glad we did, because on the way back, the boat was absolutely packed, and we had to sit inside. We hadn't booked in advance. We got a boat, I think, about 10 in the morning. Got to Amalfi. Amalfi, even though we weren't there in high season, it was still packed. There was loads of boats arriving, just spewing people out, buses arriving. It was really, really busy. I didn't really know what to do when we got there, so we thought we'd just have a wander around. So we had a walk up through the town. We went in a church that's there that was very, very pretty, and quite interesting. You do have to pay, and the payment includes some of the areas behind the church. I can't remember what they're all called. The crypt, like a garden area. I don't know. There's a museum area, and then the actual church itself. So we really enjoyed walking around that. We did spend quite some time there, and it was very, very pretty. So I'm glad we paid for that. And then we walked up through the town and just looked at some shops and just wandered around. We were thinking about getting something to eat because we were starting to get hungry. They had these takeaways that sold like cones of like seafood and chips, and there was like €10 for a cone of chips, or €10 for a cone of seafood. And we nearly got one, and then because it was really busy, we decided to walk on a bit further. And then Simon saw this sign for a restaurant, and the prices looked really cheap. So we walked up one of these side streets. The side streets, most of the ones that I saw, basically you go up steps, and then, because it's up quite steep either side of the main road. And so we walked up these steps, came to this little tiny takeaway restaurant. They had basically a kitchen, a hatch, and then like 2 or 3 tables right in front of them. And it wasn't very busy when we got there, thank goodness. We could get a table, and they did pasta dishes. So we ordered a pasta dish each, and the pasta dish was about €10. So compared to the takeaway places we walked past earlier, it was much, much better value, and we really enjoyed it. And we could sit there and eat it as well. Now, it wasn't very comfortable, and you couldn't really sit there for a long time because people arrived. So you felt like once you'd finished, you need to leave. We were also able to use their toilet, even though we had to kind of walk through the kitchen to use it. But they did allow us to use their toilet as well, which was great. So we had some pasta, which was very, very tasty. Walked back down, walked along the seafront a bit, and then got the boat back. We hadn't booked times. I don't know what happens if you book a time, whether you can skip the queue, because the queue when we got back, one thing, the harbour area is a bit chaotic, and there was just signs saying, Sorrento, Salerno, Capri, Positano, whatever it was. So first we weren't sure they're in the right queue or not. So when a boat came in from the company that we had bought our tickets for, because we bought a return ticket, came in, I went down and asked the staff member, is this the boat to Salerno, and where do I queue? And we were in the right queue, but it was a very long queue. So we did not think we were going to get on the boat, but we did. But we were among the last ones on, so we had to sit downstairs inside, and it was really, really packed. And there's also a lot of people who are obviously staying in Amalfi who had suitcases and bags for them, and all that was shoved into one area, but it meant that it had fewer seats available. So it was really, really busy when we went. I had dread to think what it's like in the middle of the summer. I bet it's packed. It is quite expensive. Most of the shops that we saw were like touristy shops selling everything you can think of with lemons on it, and a lot of cheap tat. But I really enjoyed it. I would love to go back to the Amalfi Coast and Sorrento again. Is it a place I probably will go to again? Probably not, because if we go to Italy, there's probably other places I would prefer to see. But if I have the chance, I would definitely go to Sorrento and the Amalfi Coast again. We didn't really explore Salerno. I don't know whether Salerno is worth exploring or not. What we saw, we're driving in and out of it, wasn't that impressive. I would not go back to the Naples, Pompeii area again, because I wasn't that impressed with it. I mean, obviously I love Pompeii, but I wouldn't go there again. But I would definitely go to Sorrento and the Amalfi Coast again if I had a chance. But I think if I'm going to go to Italy, there's probably other places in southern Italy that I would like to go to before I go back there. We decided not to go to Capri. I kind of want to do it. I kind of didn't. A friend of mine went in April, and she said it was very expensive, very busy, and she didn't think it was worth going. let me know if you've been to any of these areas. You've been to Amalfi, Positano, Sorrento, Salerno, Capri. Did we miss out by not going to Capri? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to stick around for some knitting content and crafting content, as well as occasional other stuff, please subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.